Hello, welcome to News Central Now, coming to you live from our studio in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Benga Borowa, and here are the headlines at this hour. Landslide kills 15 at artisanal gold mine in northeastern Guinea. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir dissolves parliament. And Africa's COVID-19 caseload surpasses 4.6 million mark. We'll bring you the details shortly. The news begins in Nigeria, where the army says troops of its 3rd Brigade in the northwestern state of Kano have arrested 13 suspected Boko Haram terrorists on Saturday. A statement on Sunday said the suspected terrorists were arrested around Filinlasio in Hotoro area of Kano following a successful operation. The army said the ongoing operation was predicated on the need to apprehend criminals who might want to hibernate in any part of the state. A security outfit urged the public to go about their lawful businesses as security forces are on top of the situation. Still on security matters in Nigeria, gunmen have killed 7 police officers in a night of attacks in the southeastern state of Rivers. A statement from the police on Sunday said the attackers opened fire at a checkpoint on Friday evening, then drove on to attack 2 police stations. Police added that officers fired back, killing 2 of the raiders and injuring some of the others who escaped in a stolen car. The killings came amidst security challenges across the country. Still in Nigeria, operatives of the drug agency have busted an online drug trafficking cartel in the federal capital, Abuja. A statement from the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency said 5 members of the organized criminal group were arrested during sting operations carried out on Friday and Saturday, during which different brands of illicit drugs were recovered. The arrest followed online orders of drug-based edibles by undercover agents. In the southwestern state of Ondo, 60 kilograms of cannabis were intercepted and 1 person was arrested in the state capital, Akure. In Rivers State, 15.8 kilograms of skunk was intercepted and 1 person arrested. In neighboring Republic of Benin, the Minister of Interior, Saka Lafia, has warned of a destabilizing plan that he described as a serious threat to the integrity of the country. Lafia sounded the alarm in a statement in the economic capital, Cotonou, citing the seizures of batches of ammunition in Benin as well as in neighboring Togo. Recall that on the 30th of April, Benin's police seized a batch of 70,000 cartridges of 12mm caliber on board a vehicle. The minister said the seizures came after public actors openly expressed their support for armed individuals responsible for the serious unrest during the presidential elections in April. Staying in West Africa, a landslide at an artisanal gold mine has killed at least 15 people in northeastern Guinea. The disaster took place in remote Seguiri province, about 800 kilometers from the capital, Conakry. In a statement on Sunday, the government said it had launched an investigation. Unconfirmed reports say the bodies of those killed have been recovered and 2 women were among the casualties. The zone holds some of Guinea's largest gold reserves. In Central Africa, the military in Chad has held a victory parade aimed at boosting its popularity at a time of uncertainty in the country. There were cheers by some people in the capital in N'Djamena as soldiers returned from the front line in a column of tanks and armored vehicles. At the parade, the military claimed victory against northern rebels following weeks of fighting. The conflict against Libya-based rebels threw the country into a crisis when President Idris Déby died after being wounded on the front line last month. The military takeover under the leadership of Déby's son has been condemned by the opposition and civil society groups, leading to protest. Now let's move to the Horn of Africa, where the head of Ethiopia's Orthodox Church has said atrocities amounting to genocide have been committed in Tigray. The allegations by Abune Matthias were his first comments on the conflict in the region that broke out in November and has killed thousands. The cleric, who has been head of the church since 2013, did not say who was responsible for the genocide during a video message posted on Twitter by an American religious charity worker. Matthias, who's ethnic Tigrayan and based in the capital, Addis Ababa, said in the video that he had been prevented from speaking out about the atrocities. He did not specify who prevented him from speaking out. Staying in the region, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has warned of the high risk of severe flooding in Somalia amidst rising water river levels. The warning was contained in the FAO's latest flood bulletin released in Mogadishu, which said at least 150,000 people were at immediate risk from imminent floods as river levels in parts of the country continue to rise due to torrential rains. The United Nations Food Agency also warned of a wave likely to inundate Beledweyne, one of the largest towns in Somalia, in the coming days. FAO said the level of damage expected could supersede the mitigation and risk measures that have already been implemented. Now, in South Sudan, President Salva Kiir has dissolved parliament, paving way for the appointment of MPs from opposing sides in the country's 5-year civil war. The move is in line with a peace deal signed 3 years ago, which stated that almost a quarter of the MPs would come from the party of Riek Machar. Majority of the 550 legislators will be from the governing SPLM party. South Sudan's MPs will not be elected, but will instead be nominated by different political parties. You're watching News Central now. Coming up on the news, South Africa records first cases of Indian COVID-19 variant. We bring you details of this and more when we return. And now to a continuous coverage of the coronavirus pandemic on the continent. Begin in South Africa, where the country has detected the first 4 cases of a new COVID-19 variant from India that was responsible for a surge of infections and deaths in the Asian country. South Africa's health ministry said in a statement that testing also picked up 11 cases of the variant that was first detected in the United Kingdom. Health Minister Zweli Mkhize said cases were discovered by the Network for Genomic Surveillance in South Africa. The 4 positive cases were detected in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal provinces and all had a history of travel to India. Now, the number of COVID-19 cases in Africa has surpassed 4.6 million mark as the continent continues efforts to contain the pandemic. Latest figures by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Sunday also said 44.83 million tests have been conducted across the continent, with almost 124,000 virus-related deaths recorded. South Africa remains the hardest hit country by the pandemic on the continent, having recorded over 1.59 million infections with over 54,000 deaths. Tunisia, Ethiopia and Egypt are the only countries on the continent who have reported more than 200,000 COVID-19 cases. Egypt is set to start producing 60 million doses of the Chinese Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine starting next month. This is according to the head of the Central Administration for Preventive Affairs at the Health Ministry, Mohammed Abdel Fattah. The announcement comes after the Egyptian holding company for biological products and vaccines and Chinese biopharmaceutical company Sinovac signed an agreement in April to manufacture the vaccines in the country. The production of the Sinovac doses locally is expected to fast-track Egypt's vaccination drive. So far, only 1.3 million of the country's over 100 million people have received the vaccines, with the country only having received 2.5 million doses so far. Kenya has reported 306 new COVID-19 infections from a sample size of 4,251 tests conducted over the past 24 hours, taking its total number of cases to over 163,000. Figures released by the Health Ministry on Sunday showed 12 more virus-related deaths were recorded in the same period, bringing the country's total number of fatalities to 2,895. The Health Ministry also noted that about 111,000 successful recoveries have been reported in the country. A mass vaccination drive is underway in the country, with priority given to healthcare workers, the elderly, and people with underlying health conditions. You're watching News Central now. Still ahead on the news, in Wuldrap, authorities are battling to extinguish a fire outbreak at a refinery at Homs, Syria. More on this when we return. In Wuldrap, some of the children killed outside a secondary school in Kabul on Saturday have been buried, as all the relatives are still searching for the missing. More than 60 people, mostly girls, died in the explosions that occurred as students were leaving the building. No one has admitted carrying out the attack in the Nashat Erbachi, an area often hit by Sunni Islamist militants. Afghan government officials blamed Taliban militants for the attack, but the group denied any involvement. In Syria, a fire outbreak has occurred in the country's main Homs refinery in the west of the nation. State media said, without elaborating, that the fire erupted in a distillation unit due to a leak in a pumping station. The fire incident comes after a blast was recorded at Homs in January this year, involving a nearby crude oil loading station and dozens of trucks that transport petroleum products across the country. India's COVID-19 death rose by more than 4,000 for second consecutive day on Sunday. The latest figures come as calls for a nationwide lockdown to curb the spread of the virus mounted. India's health ministry reported 4,092 fatalities over the past 24 hours. This takes the overall death toll to more than 242,000. New cases rose by over 403,000, just shy of the record, an increase in the total since the start of the pandemic to 22.3 million. India has been hit hard by a second COVID-19 wave, with cases and deaths hitting record highs every other day. And up next is business news. On business, Dubai state-owned port operator DP World said on Sunday it had agreed with the Democratic Republic of Congo to amend its contract for a 30-year port concession. DP World said the two sides had signed a term sheet summarizing the amendments following a review of some of the clauses signed in March 2018. DP World did not disclose what the amendments were, though it said they were made to better support President Felix Tshisekedi's plans to develop the trade and logistics sector. The Dubai company was awarded the concession to develop a manage the Atlantic Coast port in 2018 through a joint venture with the government. Nigeria's Minister for State for Petroleum has hinted at an ongoing feud between the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the nation's national oil company, NNPC. The minister, Timipre Silva, was responding to questions surrounding oil assets owned and operated by the nation from lawmakers in the House of Representatives Committee on Downstream Petroleum. He said the NNPC flagrantly disobeyed an instruction from his office, which was approved by President Muhammadu Buhari. Other lawmakers expressed disappointment at the conduct of senior officials of the NNPC, saying the national oil company has consistently refused to present itself to oversight by Parliament.
For whatever reason, we are not here by ourselves. We are here by the law, the same law that gives you the powers to manage the resources on behalf of Nigeria.
If you look at the sensitivity of this issue, and those invited to be here, and that among about six of those invited, only you, that the overall minister that's here, all others feels they are too, and DPR feels they are too big, or maybe the role they play is too important than even the National Assembly itself. This does not portend a good light for this, our nascent democracy, I can say, to a certain extent. This has been a recurrent issue. In most cases, when issues have to do with NNPC, you find them lagging behind, particularly when it concerns the National Assembly.
I listened very carefully, and I got the message that you sought to pass through me to the NNPC. And I will say that I've taken the message, and I will deliver it as you have presented it. But of course, as you know, the issue before you is a situation where I wrote a memo to Mr. President, and it was approved, and the NNPC also wrote another memo, supposedly.
Now in sports, Christian Rodriguez has become the first Spanish and European rider to win the Tour du Rwanda. Rodriguez, who rides for Total Direct Energy, also won the final stage 8 after clocking 2 hours, 5 minutes and 6 seconds in the 75-kilometer distance race. He was followed by Piccoli James of Israel, Startup Nation, who came in second, while Alex Hone finished third. Rwandan riders failed to win a single stage for the third consecutive edition of the annual UCI Africa Tour race. Now, former Al Masry and Cotton sport midfielder Sanda Umaru has passed away at the age of 38 after battling a long illness. Sanda is considered a Cameroonian football legend, having led Cotton Sport of Garua to the 2003 CAF Confederation Cup and the 2008 CAF Champions League final. Moreover, he had a stint with Egyptian outfit Al Masry, representing the club between 2005 and 2007, with the Greens finishing in mid-table positions after hanging up his boots in 2012, and went on to coaching and led Ngaoundéré FC to the second tier of the Cameroonian Football League as champions of the 2019 National Interpools in Betua. His former club, Al Masry, has mourned the player and offered their condolences. In Formula One, Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton produced a brilliant and strategic race to beat Red Bull's Max Verstappen in the Spanish Grand Prix. Hamilton's third win in 4 races this season came despite losing the lead to Verstappen in the first corner. Hamilton and Mercedes put on a 2-stop strategy, and 7-time champion closed a 23-second deficit in 18 laps to pass the Red Bull driver with 6 laps to go. Hamilton's victory was the 98th of his career after he set his 100th pole position on Saturday. The win also extends his championship lead to 14 points. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. A landslide has killed 15 people at a gold mine in northeastern Guinea. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir has dissolved the country's parliament. And finally, we told you that Africa's COVID-19 caseload has surpassed the 4.6 million mark. Remember to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also catch up with our news and programs. Just download the News Central TV mobile app on Play Store and iOS. You can also watch us live on StarTimes Channel 274. Many thanks for watching. I am Benga Aboroa.